All right, Jabbar, welcome to the Nova University podcast. Can you introduce yourself to the people on the panel and the people that are listening in to this podcast right now?
Absolutely. What's going on, everybody? My name is Jabbar Adesada. I'm a 21-year-old United States Marine, real estate investor. I own 14 doors. I fix and flip. I buy and hold. I've primarily specialized in like short-term rentals, private capital. I've done sub-2 creative finance. Done pretty much a lot in the last 2 years I've been investing. So,
Nice,
um,
nice. And how many properties do you own right now, Jabbar?
14 doors.
14 doors. Wow, that's a lot. Uh,
Yeah.
can you explain to people like how do you, I guess before we get into the real estate part, how'd you got into the financing and all that part like at a young age?
Yeah, absolutely. So like when I was growing up, like many people, I just didn't have a good relationship with money in the household. My parents had divorced when I was 3, and I had a very toxic relationship with my mother. And my mother's would always say things when we would go to grocery shopping, like I'd try and put food in the cart. She'd be like, "Go ask your dad." So it was just very growing up very young. I just didn't have a lot of money, and I was always a very hungry kid, and to buy food you needed money. So I just always knew that I didn't want to feel this way, like as an adult. I didn't want my kids to feel this way. So fast forward, I moved in with my dad, and I used to play basketball, and when I played basketball, it was my life. I'm talking, wake up at 5, go to gym at 5:30, 5:30 to 8:30, we're working out, go to school. As soon as I get to school at like 8, let's say 9 o'clock, I start running stairs. Then I go to school, I'll skip class, play basketball. After school, do practice from 3 to 6, and then get back home, not do my homework, and then play pickup basketball. So and this was every single day, like Monday through Saturday. Sometimes Sunday, I guess I wouldn't skip class to play basketball, but it was pretty much my life. And anything that didn't have to do with basketball, I pretty much ignored. And so one day, my pastor at church gave us an assignment to read Rich Dad Poor Dad. And I didn't do it because Rich Dad Poor Dad had nothing to do with basketball. It wasn't written by a basketball player. I didn't care because it wasn't about basketball. So my dad, he was livid because in an African household, if the pastor's like the head honcho, gives you an assignment to do and you don't do it, it's like a huge embarrassment to the family. So he took my prized possessions at the time, my 2 Wilson basketballs, and he popped them both. And then he gave me Rich Dad Poor Dad, and he told me I had to read it and write a book report on it that same night. So I cried. I don't know if I cried, but I was very, very hurt. And I read the book cover to cover. It was actually a really amazing, great book. I remember I read it like I couldn't put it down, and then I wrote the book report on it, and everyone was commending me on like. And this was like, when you're in high school, you have a paper due the next morning. This was one of those type of papers that I wrote, and people were commending me about like how amazing my paper was. But really, it was just like something that kind of like sparked my interest because that was tying into how I could eventually be successful with money, but I didn't do anything with it because I was 15 at the time. So then when I was 18 or 17, joined the military, went to boot camp because I wanted to become a doctor and everything like that. And so after I finished basic training in the Marine Corps, we go to Marine combat training, and I was there during the Thanksgiving holiday block. So during the Thanksgiving holiday block, like on Thanksgiving Day, instead of training, we couldn't go home to be with our families. So a bunch of wealthy people in the area basically hosted us for Thanksgiving. It was kind of cool. It was like an auction. So it'd be like, who wants to take these 2 Marines home with them? And then, the rich people are like, hey, we'll take them. And so that's the moment that really changed my life because I went home with these people and I got to see how they were living. And these people were super happy. I mean, they had traveled the world. Like this guy, his name's Phil. He was the type of person to come home on a Saturday or on a Friday night or maybe a Monday night and be like, hey, we're going to Paris. Or like, hey, we're going to go scuba diving in the morning and skydiving in the afternoon. Like they had like this super awesome life, and everyone was super fun, and they were incredibly wealthy. And I had asked them like that's really what like clicked for me. Like I want to do this. So he gave me 2 books. I'll Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi and Automatic Millionaire by David Bach. And I've read those books during Marine combat training, and I was hooked. I caught the bug, and I was like, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm going to be rich, quotation marks, whatever that meant to me at the time. And that's what really like sparked my journey, like really got it to like, I'm taking this serious. We're gonna make something happen here.
Nice, nice. And a lot of people want to know is like why okay, you joined the Marines and you say you want to become a doctor. How
Oh,
does that correlate together?
it doesn't. So my recruiter is just a great salesperson. He told me that if I joined the Marine Corps, there's some special program where I could be a Marine for 2 years, and then they would send me to go to get my bachelor's degree, and then send me to become a doctor, and all. It was gonna be sunshine and rainbows, and I was gonna be, like this super young military doctor, getting paid a lot of money and living the military life and all this jazz. And so, me being the egotistical maniac that I am, I fell for it. And I learned that the way that he explained the program didn't exist. I had to actually get my bachelor's degree first before applying to the program. And then I would do the program, but there's no guarantee I would be like a board certified, like orthopedic surgeon, like I wanted. It was like, I would be like, those military doctors. So you have to then it was just not it, man. I was so mad when I found out, scammed like everyone else, and yeah, screw that guy. But
And now, has your thoughts of becoming a doctor and going to college change from now?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I would say when I was in the Marine Corps, I started going to school because I was like, all right, well, I this personal finance stuff is cool, but like, how am I going to keep on funding it? Because I knew I wasn't going to stay in the Marine Corps. Like the second, like the year or the month that I got down to Buford, I was like, yeah, I can't do this. And so, not I can't do this from like a it sucks so bad. It's just like I wanted more, and I didn't feel like it was challenging me enough. So yeah, I started going to school, and then I had bought my first house. Like, this was 6 months later. We could talk about all this,
Yeah.
but I had bought my first house, and I was also in college, and then I was also trying to be like a super badass at my job. So I was like juggling all these things, and then one day I was just like, all right, you need to focus on one thing, because if not, you're going to be average at like all three of these things. It's not going to work. So I was like, which one of these things are going to get you to your overall like outcome in life, and like your goal of being, having the status, having the financial success, having the lifestyle. Which one of these things is going to get you there the quickest, and which one of these things are going to get you there most efficiently? And so that's when I realized like I need to bet on myself and do the whole entrepreneur thing. I was going to focus on becoming the best real estate investor that I could be, over being the best Marine that I could be, and also being the best student that I could be. And I'm very happy with that decision, because it's where I'm at now, where I'm controlling over $4 million worth of real estate. Next month, I have two flips that should close. You know how it goes with real estate, and I'll make $250,000, which is a pretty decent chunk of change for a 21-year-old Marine. And yeah, it's things are working out a lot better than if I might have been in school, and if I might have tried to be the person who drank the Marine Corps Kool-Aid and went about it that route.
Nice. And what would you recommend for someone that's actually deciding whether to go to college, whether to join the military, or whether to do a trade? They're just starting out. What would you recommend? And they want to get into real estate as well.
This is a loaded question, because like every it I me personally, I think it just depends on the individual, because I've realized that not everyone can be like like us, right? Like go-getters, people who are gonna like immediately just go balls to the wall, take as much risk as humanly possible, not fear bankruptcy, not fear failure. I realize that some people need that kind of the training wheels of having a stable income and building up slowly before they take the risk. And so, what I would recommend is, for a young person, let's say you're going back to 17 and your goal is to make 7 figures a year. That's your goal, and you want to do it in real estate because you think real estate can get you there. I wouldn't recommend going the military route, even though that's the route I took. I wouldn't recommend doing it the education route, like going to college. I'd recommend doing sales of some sort. I'd recommend, networking with as many of these high profile salespeople. I'm talking about your 10-figure earners, and trying to get under some sort of mentorship where you're trading your time in exchange for the experience of learning underneath them and becoming the best salesperson that you could be. And then eventually, like and just focus on the skill. It's called skill stacking. Like you shouldn't expect, if you go into it saying, I'm going to put 10,000 hours of trying to master sales as a craft. I think it's reasonable to assume that you'll be able to, after you get that 10,000 hours in, however long it takes you, it's going to depend on you. I think it's reasonable to assume that you'll be a very successful individual when it comes to your finances, and you'll be able to start a 7-figure sales company, or you'll be able to at least be someone who's making strides towards real estate. And then, you can do wholesaling, you can be a real estate agent, you can flip houses. I mean, there's several different ways you can make a lot of money in real estate. But if I was like starting over, I'd learn sales. And let me niche down even further, like sales within real estate, not like sales like anywhere, not super broad, like, I don't know, pest control, but sales within real estate, I believe, will get you there, and that will be your best bet.
Nice. And Jabbar, you're talking about sales, you're talking about getting into this. Like, were you a part of any groups that was helping you out getting to this point? Or did you ever utilize your sales at a specific point? Like, were you wholesaling or anything like that?
No, I learned this all pretty recently. I was in Sheik's Freaks. That's where I met you.
Hmm.
Um, Sheik's Freaks is a group of other young, like, entrepreneurs, individuals who are like into this whole personal finance game. And that group helped a lot because I got to be around a bunch of other people who were like me. And that's how I met my best friends, Leo and Marcel. And we started our accountability group where we would basically press each other every day and be like, well, hey, did you wake up this morning? Hey, did you watch porn? Hey, did you make the calls that you said you were going to call? Did you go and analyze X amount of deals? Did you network with 5 people? How many high level people did you talk to this week? And it was intense. It was very cutthroat in there. We did that for about a little bit over a year. And so all those things helped me get to where I'm at. But I would say, from a standpoint of leveraging the skill of sales, that kind of came with me from an experience standpoint. And so I leverage, sales is with everything, but the way that I use it the most is where I'm raising money to go buy real estate, is I have to sell people on trusting me, liking me, and knowing me enough to give me, hundreds of thousands of dollars, sign guarantee hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars worth of debt. Asking a 19, 20, 21 with a 19, 20, 21-year-old, I have to get them to look beyond that and leverage myself to be able to execute, So that is where I get the experience from sales. I'm pretty shit at sales from, like, compared to someone who's great at sales, but I'm good enough to get to where I've gotten today.
Nice. And did you come from a family that was making a lot of money and it supported you, or did you come from like kind of like the dirt poor, or like not, or maybe even middle class? Like, I'm guessing you didn't have family members that was helping you along the way, did you?
No, so no one in my family helped me. I would say I'm very much so middle class. I grew up in a middle class family, but when I was younger, I was abused, like, in a lot of different ways. So my mother, who raised me, she made money and she collected child support, but there would never be any food in the house. And the food that was in the house, she would restrict me from being able to enjoy that food because that was her food. And so I would, like, go to school every day, and I would drink water. I would go to school with just bread and water every day. That would be my meal for the day: bread and water. I'd come home, bread and water, cereal, ramen noodles. Like, she would raise me like that because that was her upbringing. And it was like this sick, twisted way of, I guess, making me more grateful. And I, like, dude, like, even though I had experiences that people would consider privileged, like I was well traveled and all these things, like, I definitely struggled from a financial perspective because I wouldn't have food going to school. I wouldn't have money. I would, like, collect coins on the ground. I remember there's this pizza in Maryland when I lived in Maryland. It was called DMV Pizza, and it was like $3. And for the longest, it was $3. And then one day, like, they just upped it from $3 to $3 plus tax, which I think added like 24 cents. But I literally only had $3. It was just change. So I literally like walked all around like the area to find like pennies and coins until I had enough money to buy a slice of pizza. That's like my struggle story. But when I moved in with my dad, we were very much middle class. He was very comfortable and cush. But my family on that side, they're big spenders, so they lived well beyond their means. So money was also a struggling point there. But it was just from a point of, hey, we make six figures, but we're spending more than six figures. So like my parents aren't able to help me because they don't have the finances to. They don't have the credit. They don't have the money. They don't have the risk tolerance, obviously. So that's my family background with all of this.
Gotcha. Okay. Man, I bet a lot of people can actually relate back to that, or even compare themselves to like what you're going through as well. And a lot of people wants to know, why do you plan on leaving the military, the Marines itself?
Hurrah, hell yeah, brother.
Are you still in right now?
Yep.
Okay. How many years you got left?
I'm planning on getting out this December. My EAS is August of next year, but with SkillBridge, which allows me to intern with a company for 6 months, and then with terminal leave, and then using my leave that I would have been collecting on SkillBridge, I'll be able to get out this December,
Nice.
mid-December.
And with SkillBridge,
as long as I don't.
Which company are you leaving with, or are you choosing
have
yourself?
A buddy.
Okay.
I have a buddy who's gonna let me intern with him.
Nice. Okay. Because I've heard some other people that use it, they make their own LLC and it kind of passes through. So now they're kind of working for themselves, and they just basically leave the military like that.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And can you talk about your first investment, your first property?
Yeah, absolutely. So my first property, this came after I had learned about real estate when I was 18 turning 19. So August of 2020. And it was like towards the end. So I was really like doing stocks primarily before that. I was grinding, busting my ass because I was door dashing, I was writing essays for people, and I was taking duties. I was standing duties for money. So I was side hustling like a motherfucker. Am I allowed to curse? I'm sorry.
Yeah. You're good.
Side hustling like crazy to save up 25 or 30 grand, however much it was at that time. And I had this stockpile of money. I was 18 with like 30 grand. It was like, it's the most money I had. And I learned that like the way of doing it, how I was doing it currently, was just not sustainable. The returns I was getting in the stock market, because it was COVID time, wasn't sustainable. Taking all these duties, door dashing, wasn't sustainable because I traveled, right, with the military a bunch. So real estate just was extremely attractive for me. So I just grinded on the research, man. I listened to every single OG Bigger Pockets podcast. They're on episode 400 at the time. I listened to all of them. I was listening to Rookie Show. I was reading their books. I was connecting with people. And I think that was one of the most valuable things I did, was I was reaching out to investors and just getting advice. And so after 5 months, I had found and bought in my first property. And I'd set this arbitrary goal in August when I first learned about real estate. Like, I don't care if I have to buy a property from a turnkey company. I'm going to own a house at 19, like, 6 months from now. That was the goal. So I did it in 5 months. I bought a house in Savannah, Georgia. It was on the MLS for like 60 days. And I had read the book by The House Hacking Strategy by Craig Kurlop. And in that book, he was talking about how he's cash flowing like $1,200 a month on the house hack. And, Bigger Pockets at the time, if you listen to their stuff, they're like $100 a month, $200 a month in cash flow is golden. So I was like, $1,200 a month versus, a couple $100 a month is life-changing money for me. So I ended up buying that property, ran my numbers, was like, oh, if I add another bedroom, not like a legal bedroom, but if I make another rentable space, then I would be cash flowing like crazy on this thing, and it's going to be a home run. So I bought the deal. Numbers made sense. I had a tough time getting financing because I was 19, so I didn't have 2 years of W-2s. I didn't have a credit score until like 3 weeks into my mortgage application process. I didn't have all I had was the 30 grand really. I didn't really have anything going for me, but the lender essentially after 13, 14, 15, I talked to 19 lenders, 13 of them told me no. And so one of them just said if I put 5% down, I'd be able to buy the house with my VA loan. So that's what I did. Put 5% down, $246,000 property. So with the funding fee, the down payment, think it was like 15,800, and then another 7 grand for furniture. So I was all into this deal, 25 grand. I slept on the futon, and then I rented out each individual bedroom, and then I essentially doubled my income. So that property the first year cash flowed $1,500 a month, and then today it cash flows over $2,000 a month as I've raised rents. And yeah, it was like the first deal was a grand slam because I put 5% down. House act, it's also worth like $100-something thousand more than I bought it for. So I have like equity in the deal. It's great. It's really, really what catapulted me with my journey because it's like this shit works. Like this stuff is real.
Nice. And what did you do with your second property now? Did you do the same thing, or did you put 20% down? What did you do with that second property?
I had no money. So I had no money and I was in the field, WTI in the field. It's like a field training exercise. And I was like trying to rent out my rooms from Arizona, the properties in Georgia. And then this guy I was talking to was like, hey, yeah, man, I'm in real estate too. And I own 3 cabins and it cash flow like 150 grand a year. I was like, what the hell? You own 3 like residential properties that cash flow you 50 grand a unit? Each door, like a year, like you're lying. And so like the dude proved it to me. And then I started diving deep into it. That area happened to be the Great Smoky Mountains in Sevierville, Tennessee. And so I had no money. Cabins there were $500,000 plus. I had just bought my first property, was active for like 2 months. And then I was like, well, instead of asking myself like, or instead of saying like, okay, I can't do it because I don't have anything, I have money, can't get the loan, I've never even done an Airbnb before. How can I do it? So I realized, all right, man, well, if you raise the money and if you can find someone to guarantee the loan, all you have to do is manage it and hopefully they'll give you some equity. So that's pretty much what I came up with. And I started pitching it to every single person I knew, friends, family, people at work. I was just sharing it with as many people as possible. Hey, I have this goal. And I also started grinding on the research of learning how to operate an Airbnb. I started networking with people who had owned like 40 plus Airbnbs. So I was really getting knowledgeable as much as possible. And then I would just pitch it to as many people as possible. And at first I was terrible. I mean, my first time on the phone, man, like I literally hung up the phone because I was so nervous. It was going so horrible. And, eventually I got really good at selling people on my competence, getting them to trust me. And then, people invest with people they like, know, and trust, and getting them to like me. So someone in Sheik's Freaks, he ended up deciding to go in on the cabin with me. So I did that whole deal with someone else's money, someone else's credit, on that thing 50-50. And yeah, that's how the second deal was done. And that's what got me on Bigger Pockets and Business Insiders, which led to more people reaching out to me who had money that helped me scale to where I am today.
Nice. And do you still have those properties right now?
Yeah.
Okay, nice. And are you Airbnb-ing that one successfully, or is that now a long term? What are you doing with that one?
Yeah, that one's an Airbnb. It's just been a lot more capex than we expected. I guess it's profitable. We thought it was gonna be like this super awesome deal. It's just a base hit for Airbnb.
Okay, okay. And with your third property, was it another Airbnb or what was that?
Oh, dude, now we're getting to the like which property was number 3. I think my third property was a sub 2 deal. I think. Yeah. I think my third property, I bought it, nothing down. It was a sub 2 deal. I took over another Marine's mortgage. So there's a Marine, I was in Norway at the time, last year, and there's a Marine who was getting kicked out the Marine Corps. He had the baby coming on the way, and he was
Hoorah.
moving to Texas. And sorry, yeah, and so all those things were happening. So I started following up with the guy because I knew he owned two properties, and one of them I really wanted to own because it was a duplex in Beaufort. And so Beaufort, South Carolina, like Parris Island, that's where Marine Corps graduations are held. So like the demand for Airbnbs is just there because there's graduations every single week. And he owned a duplex, so there's not a lot of duplexes in Beaufort. So I would call him like every single, like, not, I would text him every 2 weeks, every 4 weeks, every month. I'll just keep texting him. And like, hey, do you want to sell? Do you want to sell? Do you want to sell? Because I knew he had the motivation to, because he was halfway across the country now. He had this headache of a property. The property looked run down when I would drive by it. And then, so eventually, while I was in Norway, he goes, fine, I'll sell it to you. Gave me a ridiculous price. Ended up bringing them back down to reality. And then my friend Marcel, who's my best friend, he basically had a mentor, and he also is a specialist in sub-2 creative finance. So I basically had them coach me through the process of closing the seller, just telling me, hey, like, if he says this, then what do I say? That kind of game. And we ended up getting the deal with some crazy terms because he had a 2.25% interest rate when interest rates were skyrocketing to 7%. So I bought it, just took over his mortgage, 0% down, 0% interest, and then I have to pay him like 70 grand 10 years from now, which by that time I'll either refinance or I'll sell it or I can wholesale it. Like, just so many exits with this deal. And so it's currently an Airbnb. It's a 2-1 and then a 3-1.
Mhm.
And the mortgage is $1,250, and the 2-1 rents for $1,800 to $3,500
Wow.
a month. Yes, and I have not, I just have furniture and closing costs in this deal.
Yeah, you're basically just cash flowing right now. And
Yeah,
for a lot of people, they're kind of, for me, I'm kind of one of those people that don't like sub twos just because I ran into some issues with them. How do you combat that? Like, how do you make sure that the person, or like, for example, an issue that I've seen is they would refinance after I would get the property, and now it's like, now I got to pay even further for that. But now I learned, hey, just put a clause in a paper agreement where they can't refinance. Have you gone into those types of troubles with subject twos?
I haven't, but I will say, like, they're definitely not as bright and gloomy or bright and sandy and sunshine as rainbows as people make it out to seem. One thing is, a lot of the sellers, they'll have second thoughts. So like, they start talking to their friends and family, and then they'll start, acting as if they didn't just agree to doing this, and acting like, you basically took advantage of them, where you have literal emails and text explaining, like, in baby language, what is happening, what the plan is, what the agreed upon terms are, and they're agreeing to it all. And you'll see, and I know a lot of my friends who do a lot of sub twos, like the people who I know who do a lot of them, they have several lawsuits going on because a lot of the sellers, they just get crazy because they're like, oh, well, now I want to buy a house, but the lender's like, hey, well, this loan's still on your DTI, so you can't buy the house. Or they want to, let's say they want the property back. They're like, well, now I realize I could have just rented it out. Or, just dumb things that, like, you didn't do anything wrong, but now the seller is just wanting to go back on their agreement. So it's little things like that make it a little bit more troublesome. But you just kind of ride it out. You communicate with the seller. You figure out how you can come to a solution, to how you can help the seller, because that's really what this is for. That's why you do a sub two, because this guy was behind on his mortgage. So you remind him, like, hey man, like, you were behind on your mortgage payment. I got your mortgage payment current so that you didn't get foreclosed on, so that this property, you had a tenant that wasn't paying. I was the one who helped. Like, I took all that stress off of you. So like, sometimes you gotta remind them of what happened. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's definitely some issues with sub twos.
Nice, nice. And was your fourth property sub two? What's the story with that one?
That one I think was a house hack. That one was a property I bought, $700,000 property in Savannah, Georgia, that was a triplex with a fourth unit that was unfinished. And so to give you this, to tell you like the story about Savannah, you're not buying a triplex for 700,000 downtown. It's just not happening.
Okay.
Um, so I bought this one because the real estate agent I was working with likes me a lot, and the seller of the property also knew who I was and saw what I was doing. So instead of her listing his property for 850,000, she basically told me to just talk to him and see if he would give me a deal. So I talked to him. He gave me a price, and he said 675. And I knew when he gave me that price that was a great deal. So I didn't even negotiate. Sometimes like people will be like, "Oh, you should have tried to get him down lower." My friend told me I should have, but I was like, I know that's a good deal because I know what this would sell for. And so I basically I told him, "Hey, I'll pay you 695, just cover the $20,000 in closing costs that I'm gonna have to pay for this." And so that's what I did. I paid him 695. He covered every single last one of my closing costs. So I literally bought this property with no money down for my VA loan. And then what else? Yeah, it's. I mean, the property's insane, dude. It's literally. I currently Airbnb it in Savannah right now. I mean, each unit is doing 4,500. We just got approved to build out the fourth unit. Once I build out the fourth unit, the property will be worth 1.2 million, and that's another 4,500 because it's going to be a two bed, one bath with a living room. The other two units don't even have a freaking living room. I have and they're doing 4,500 in February. It's ridiculous. And so, like, I have one available day for March.
Wow, nice,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
And
It's like
are you over the limit of your VA at all right now? Or what is the
max,
limit for those that are
max.
listening in?
So I don't know. I just know I'm well past it.
Okay, okay,
Like 775 or something like that.
nice. And now, are you now only doing multifamilies?
No, so I've bought some single family stuff. If you ask me about deal number five, I'll tell you I don't remember which one's deal number five, but I've bought in like five or six single family homes in Savannah, all short term rentals. And yeah, I think that's it. Right now I really do only want to focus on like multifamily in Savannah. Like that's my goal. Is I don't want to do any more single family homes. Those I'll flip. I really just want to do like larger multifamily deals. So
Okay, okay. And can you just quickly summarize your fifth, sixth, and however many properties you got left?
yeah, all of those I bought them either with a partner, so they put up the money. I do find the property, do all the work, and then we split profits 50-50. And those were just people who are on Instagram or Facebook who I just had networked with from Bigger Pockets or different real estate investing communities. And then, yeah, or private money. So deals where I bought with a cash, put money into them, refinanced out, or I might sell them. It depends on the return on equity at that point.
Mhm.
But that's pretty much how I bought the remaining whatever amount of properties.
Nice. And why do you choose fix and flips? Because a lot of people, a lot of investors, they either regret doing fix and flips and they rather hold the properties that they fixed up. What's your point of view on that?
I think it depends. So like for me, I own a lot of properties already. So and I realized that I don't want to own these type of properties anymore, right? I want to move away from single families and do more multifamily stuff. So I don't want I still find opportunities to I mean, like I said, I'm making like I have a flip where I bought it for 120, I'm putting 50 into it, and it's under contract right now at 320. So like the opportunity to make 100 grand today to then, have the reserves or to just have the cash now to parlay into just more systems, employees, education is still valuable. And
Mhm.
so allows me to also work on my skills of managing construction and learning that process and understanding what things cost and being able to look at a property and say, okay, this is probably going to cost me between 30 and 40 grand, or no, this is a $50,000, $70,000 rehab. It's that type of, I guess,
Knowledge that
way,
you're building.
yeah, knowledge, and I'm making money doing it. So
Nice. Yeah, I like that. You already have you're just basically flipping and doing that for fun now and just building up your your account and your bank just so whenever a deal like such as a fourplex or an eightplex come along, you're like, I'm taking that one for
right,
yourself. I like that.
yeah. You get
Eh,
to a point behind these rentals, a lot of people don't talk about it, but there's an unsexy period called the stabilization period, where the property's not making any money, it's just empty, and you're fixing it up or you're furnishing it, or it's empty because your price is too high and you're still figuring out the marketing for it. And I have a lot of these properties right now, like a few of them that I bought last month that are just empty. They're not making any money, and I'm just waiting for the construction to be done or the furnishing to be done before I could start generating cash flow. But a lot of people just skip to the good part to where they're getting, they're making 5 grand a month, 6 grand a month, 10 grand, or whatever it is. But there's this process that no one really, explains, that from my understanding or in my learning process, where you need to manage the people who are going to get that asset performing.
nice. And how do you manage that?
Poorly. I hey, I'm like, I have so many of these going on right now. I hire good people. I don't care how much they charge. I build that into my numbers, and I'm like, hey, do your thing, and then I follow up with them as I remember.
Nice. Okay. And what since you've been doing most of this like building with other people's money or doing it with like other people's help as well, what's the best way to sell yourself to somebody if somebody's having a hard time doing that, or they're trying to figure out how can I like impress this investor so that they can invest with me?
I would say, like, for a lot of young people, especially, because that's like the biggest thing when you don't have a lot of experience, and not just young people. Maybe you're not young in age, but you're young in experience. You just need to do the groundwork of becoming educated so you can sound competent. So I mentioned a lot of people skip past this part, but I listen to every single Bigger Pockets podcast episode. Each of those things are an hour. They have 700 freaking episodes. Some of them are 2 hours. There's the Rookie Show and the Bigger Pockets Money. I've listened to them all. I list not now. Like, I'm behind now because I'm so busy. That was my base. That was my foundation. And when I didn't understand something, I would look it up and learn how to, like, what does this mean? How do I analyze the deal? I'd watch YouTube videos. So that's not even the YouTube content. That's not me. The Instagram content that I learned off of. That's not me going to different in-person events to learn how to, value multifamily assets, or learn how to like just massive education. And so I did that for so long, and I read so many books. I read so many books on every single topic that I'm doing currently, that it was pretty hard. It was pretty easy to tell, hey, this dude knows what he's talking about. So that's, you gain competence, boom, that's your trust. So they like you. So don't have a shitty personality, be cool, just make friends, smile, like, make jokes, get them to like you. So now they have like and trust, and then get them to know you, introduce yourself, build a relationship. They might not invest in you the first time. It might take you 4-10 touches a year. I have people who I've been cultivating relationships with for years who are just now giving me money, So it's just building out that network, building out that database. Some people might give you money after the first conversation. Some people might not give you money until the 200th conversation. But that baseline of being able to sound educated, sound competent, sound like you know what you're talking about will help you. And do a deal first. Even if that means you have to JV. Like, if you see a flipper, be like, hey man, I'll do everything. I just want 5%, maybe 5% equity, and I'll do all the coordination for you. I'll go there and I'll deliver materials to the construction site. I'll go there and I'll furnish this property and I'll build it out and everything. I just want to say that I did a deal. And then they don't need to know you only got 5%. They just need to know you did a deal. This was what you bought it for with your partner. This is what the outcome was. It worked out successfully, and you're starting to build out that track record. So that's really the goal. It's like build out that track record. Now, obviously, I have more and more of a track record to where it's easier for me to gain trust. But I told you guys how it was at the beginning. My first deal, I had no money. It was operating for 2 months. And I asked every single person I knew I could think of. I was asking random people at work at the chow hall for money, you know? That's what it took. And that's what you got to be willing to do. But it also was a combination of the tremendous amount of knowledge from educating myself that I took out, and then also just being relentless with just talking to people. And then you get better at it as you get reps in.
Yeah. And like, what would you say like the biggest struggle that you were having as a 20-year-old? Because a lot of, 20-year-olds are looking up to you, or they're kind of this, questioning whatever. What are some things that you were questioning at 20 years old or whatever?
You gotta like, it is what it is. Like, you can't change the fact that you're young. A lot of people, when you are able to speak intelligently about all this stuff, they actually are impressed by you. But like, I think the biggest challenge was just not having enough experience, because some people will not give you money, and even if you are competent, even if you do know what you're talking about, they would just rather give it to someone who has 10 years plus experience.
Yeah.
And so, like, you just have to be willing to just be okay with that. But I think the biggest challenge was just not knowing enough people. So you just have to expand your network. The thing is, a lot of people will be like, well, how do I raise money? They're asking the wrong question. Really, when you think, when it boils down to how you can, gain success and make it to the next level and keep jumping and jumping up, you got to start asking yourself the right question. So the right question isn't, how do I, raise more private capital? It's, how do I expand my network so that I can have the capability to raise more private capital? And that's a different type of way of thinking. That's a different type of way of walking through the process. Now it's like, okay, I don't have the network currently. How do I gain that network? So you're like, oh, I'm going to go to this real estate meetup. Oh, I'm going to start posting on Facebook. Oh, I'm going to start posting on social media. Oh, I'm going to, you start thinking differently. And then now, boom, you have a network of people willing to throw money at you for good deals.
Nice. Yeah. And let's say, Jabbar, they did that, right? They got the networking, they read all the books, they're doing all this. And now they're like, okay, how am I supposed to get all these deals? What are you doing that's actually helping you market to find more deals, get more deals into your lap?
Marcel Sunday. Have a Marcel. Marcel's my best friend. Marcel moved here to Savannah last year. And when he moved here, I think I had done like 3 deals. And then like we've done like, about like 10 more, since he's been here. And Marcel, he looks for deals. That's all he does. He pounds the phones. He does direct mail. He puts up bandit signs at all the flips, all the properties. And he's just constantly looking for deals. He knows what my criteria is. He already knows what I like, and he just sends them to me. And obviously, like, I also find deals myself. I have other people who send me deals, but really it's been him doing all that, because that's what his business. He wholesales. He's a real estate agent, best one in the world. And yeah, you just build relationships with people who gain from your success as an investor. And then once you show them that you're serious and that you buy, they're going to prioritize you over the person that's like, I don't know, let me talk to my wife, or money, because they're not serious. They don't take those people seriously. But when you're the person who does what they say they're going to do, close on the deals every time you say you're going to close, you're going to get prioritized. So, I mean, Marcel Sundays, I've gotten deals from people just because they like me, so just going out there and networking. I'm going to start spending money on his direct mail marketing, so to increase the amount of leads that we're getting, VAs, cold calling. I don't do that, he does. I'm going to start spending more money so you can have more VAs, because I want more deals. I need more deals. I need more houses to flip. I need more multifamilies to buy. So
nice. And for you yourself, what kind of tools or whatever are you using that actually helps you get this far? Are you using like some type of organization? Do you have like an assistant that helps you out as well?
yeah, so I have I hire people and I fire them very quickly because I don't have the patience to train them, which is something that I'm working on. But I mean, I use Monday.com. It's a project management software, and that's what I use pretty much to um organize all the different projects I have going on, future projects, prospective projects, helps me with follow up, Google Calendar to know what I'm supposed to be doing and when, who I'm meeting up with. I use Rent Ready to manage my property. For my Airbnbs, I use Hospitable. I use Turnover B&B to manage my cleaners. Hospitable does my automated messaging. Price Labs does my dynamic pricing. And then there's this thing called Hostfully that does my digital guidebook so that guests don't ask me a million questions when they come to my property. They just look at the guidebook. So it's a combination of all these things that allow me to be able to pretty much run things the way that I have been at this point. But I definitely need more people working under me to take care of things, because as my dollar per hour gets more and more valuable and like the money generating activities become more and more important, it makes a lot more sense for me to outsource a lot of the things that don't make sense for me to do, like bookkeeping or following up with a contractor to make sure that a job is finished, or paying for picking up the phone when my contract needs to buy more materials at Home Depot, things like that.
Nice, nice. And what were some of the biggest mistakes that you made as a first time investor?
Tons of them. I didn't do enough due diligence on tenants, which caused me to screw myself out of tenants for months when I first was trying to get those bedrooms rented. I miscalculated numbers on expenses and I miscalculated numbers on renovations. And so I would go over budget on a lot of projects because I think something would cost me 20, where really it cost me 40, which is like a lot of money, when you don't have much. I did a lot of, I would say I focused way too much on just analyzing MLS deals in multiple different markets instead of building relationships in the markets where I was already investing in and just trying to scale there. So last year I wasted like a lot of time. Just I was looking at like 5 different markets and it made no sense because I was putting in offers everywhere. I was always getting beat because I'm never going to beat the guy who that's their main market and that's all they're looking for and they're just want a property. I'm never going to be able to compete because that person is putting in more hours than me, putting in more work. And so when I started focusing on Savannah as my main market and just ignoring all the noise elsewhere, I started doing a lot more deals and becoming more successful, and things got a lot easier because I was really focused. I was super focused on one place instead of 10 different places. So
Yeah,
those are things. I'd just say focus early, figure things out fast, and then do due diligence. You can never do enough. Like ask, like those overruns on the rehab, I should have asked multiple contractors. I shouldn't just went with the first quote I got. I should have just tried to eyeball it. So do as much due diligence as you can. And yeah,
I
yeah,
like that. I like that. And like, if what would you say, like, if you could have, like, I guess, like, if you were to start from scratch, kind of like everything was taken away. Let's say there's another pandemic, another wave, whatever. You just lost everything. What would you
Mhm.
do differently, or what would you have done now? I guess not like what you know now.
I would bird dog for deals and buy them at 65% of value. And then I would bring them to a hard money lender because I'd probably lose my contacts, right? Bring them
Yeah,
to a hard lender who finances 100% of the deals. Be like, hey, man, I used to do, oh, and I don't have any track record. So I'd go get credit cards and I'd use that as my down payment for the first couple of deals. And I'd flip those things or I wholesale them. If I couldn't get a hard money loan, I'd wholesale them to another investor who buys at 70%, and I'll try and get them at 60%. So I just do that. I would look on the MLS. I'd have my keyword searches set up. I would also be marketing pre-foreclosures and door knocking. And I would just try to find deals and I'll network with wholesalers. Actually, I think the cheapest thing that you could do is find buyers for wholesalers. So I would network with anyone marketing in Savannah. I'd try and meet them all. I'd get on the phone with them, and every single day I would check in. Do you have a deal? 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 And then once they tell me they have a deal, I'd go and find them a buyer for that deal immediately, quickly. Boom. Now 2 weeks, I make my 10 grand, 5 grand, or whatever, and I just keep doing that. And then eventually I'll have enough money to maybe flip, and I'll start flipping. And then eventually I'll have enough money to say, okay, now I have, a few $100,000. I'm ready to start keeping some of these things. And I start keeping them as Airbnbs and run the play again. So
Like
that's why.
that. I like that. And like, what were some of the good habits that you obtained and the bad habits that you got rid of over the time?
I stopped watching porn. I was a 10-year porn addict from 8 to 18 years old, and I stopped when I was 18, May of 2020, and that helped a lot because porn was just stealing from my potential. I was just like robbing myself because I would just lie to myself. You feel guilty. I don't know if you do it, but when I was doing it, I'd feel guilty all the time, and I'd be like, "Why am I doing this? I feel like a loser," and I feel like a cuck. I feel like a less than a man. So when I stopped, it really gave me the focus and then the confidence in myself to say, I'm the type of person who does what they say they're going to do when they do it. So I was trying to formulate these habits of waking up at 4 a.m. in the morning and reading a book and working out every day and making sure I learn something new and talking to that person when I know that I'm tired as hell after work, but I still need to talk to that person. I did those things because I'd already had the confidence from, not watching porn, from, the stack of, hey, I woke up at 4 a.m. Monday through Friday. I read a book Monday through Friday. I meditated. I had gratitude. I did all these things. And so I just built the habit of doing what I said I was going to do when I said I was going to do it. And that just propelled me to where I am. And even when I don't want to do them, like driving, I would leave, I'd skip work, man. I'd skip work and go and be like, hey, I have a medical appointment to go meet with some investor in Savannah. And a lot of those people I met with, I haven't done any business with them, but it was just building that relationship because eventually they might invest in a deal with me, or they might give me a piece of information that I could use to make, I don't know, $500,000. So I just was constantly prioritizing relationships. Above all else, I think that's the most important thing. And people think, oh, relationships sounds like woo woo, or it doesn't sound like tactical. But the thing is, if you put yourself in front of as many people, as many different people, especially high level people as possible, it's reasonable to assume that eventually that will turn into dollars via opportunity that you didn't have before, that person that you build a relationship with let you into.
Yeah.
So that's why relationships are important. It's not that you just are making friends just for the fun of it. You're making friends strategically with a specific type of people because eventually you'll be pulled in or you'll receive an opportunity that you'll be able to capitalize on, and it might change the trajectory of your entire life.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you got those good habits and you got rid of those bad habits in general. Because you probably see my TikToks or whatever. I try to preach this stuff, and it helped me as well as much as it helped you, because at the end of the day, you want to feel like a man. You want to basically do your work and not be sucked into like the negativity. And a lot of people, they might be like, "Oh, that's just inhumane. You shouldn't be doing that." But I'm like, it's who I want to be, right? I want to be that person that is just investing, or is that entrepreneur that is waking up at 4 a.m. in the morning just to work, just to read, and not get sucked into those bad habits. And I don't, Jabbar, have you got back into those bad habits? Has that ever like fallen into, or have you? What is that? What is that word? I'm not thinking about it. It's like
That's
relapse. Yeah. Have you ever relapsed? And it's like, darn, because a lot of people, they do say like, oh, they relapse and they're like, how can I go back again? It's like a streak for them. Like, what is it for you?
No, for me, I would say like I definitely have peeled back a bit because I've realized that some of those habits were they got me to a certain place, but they were taking away from my overall level of optimal productivity. So like it got to a point where because I wake up at 4 and do all those things, and I'd spend 2 hours just self improving every single day. But then like I would have to go, if in order for me to have enough sleep to function long, at a high level for the rest of the week, I have to go to bed at 8. but I couldn't go to bed at 8 because I had a whole bunch of stuff that I had to do and work on. So I'd keep going to bed at 10, 11, and I didn't do it at 4. It would just keep getting pushed back to 10, 11 the next day, 10, 11 the next day. And then my weekends would just be filled with work that I didn't get done. And so I just decided to say, hey, I'm going to shorten my good habits to a way where I still do them, but I don't work out in the morning anymore. I work out during my lunch break, or I work out at PT, and if I have time, I'll work out after work. So like little things like that, I just shifted them, but I don't do them super early in the morning anymore because it wasn't serving me to wake up at 4, be tired as hell for the entire morning and not really gain what I was needing to gain, and then be tired for the rest of the day. Because I'm also in the Marine Corps, and so that in itself is incredibly exhausting. And I realized, like, if I'm not able to give at least a little bit, I'm gonna screw myself because I'm gonna get kicked out for sleeping on the job or something crazy. So
Yeah. And as a Marine, right? All the things that you were doing, has it ever, like, for the command team or whoever is like in charge, or even your own, like, comrades, were they saying anything like negative towards what you were doing at all while you were in it?
yeah, absolutely. When I first started, no one thought I could do it. Everyone thought I was going to fail, go bankrupt. Then I did it. Then it's like, oh, cool. Like, that's awesome. How's it going? And people are skeptical. And people would say things, how's your little rental property going? And then you start getting, 2, and then 3, and then 4, and then 10. And then now people are like, oh, well, now you're a douchebag because you think you're better than us because you own property, all these things. And so I just choose to ignore it. I think that that's one thing that I detest a little bit is I'm forced to be around people who I don't believe serve me because they're not really big into bettering themselves. They're just very complacent. That's just in my anecdotal experience, but it's just what I have to kind of deal through and tough out until I get out. And it's like, people will be like, well, if you don't like it, get out. Well, that's what I'm doing. I'm just waiting. So, yeah, it's just, people will be people. A lot of people, if they're listening to this, a lot of people will not believe in you. A lot of people will think you're crazy. A lot of people will expect you to fail. A lot of people will want you to fail. A lot of people will secretly, actually, once you start succeeding, wish you would fail because you're highlighting a lot of the insecurities that they have in themselves by being the person that they feel like they should be, because you're just a mirror of what they're not doing. So you do receive a lot of animosity. You kind of have to cut people off. You have to stop being friends with certain people, but it's worth it because you make friends with people who will serve you in terms of being on that same wavelength and having that same type of mindset that will propel you to more success. And you learn a lot about people, friends, family, man. Like, it's crazy. You would think, like, the people who are closest to you would be the most supportive with you on your journey, but they don't end up being. That's not always the case.
Yeah, they just want to be the one that pats on your back whenever you do fail, like, oh, I told you so, or whatever. They really want to say that to you. Because I know I've been there as well, like, where it's just negativity. Because in the military itself, it's just full of negativity. People are like, oh, we got to do PT again or whatever. I'm like, why are we complaining? It's just what it is. You just got to deal with it. And whenever you're doing things like real estate or whatever, they get very absurd. They're like, oh, you can afford this, you can do that. I'm like, well, I don't want to do that. I'm trying to be frugal, save money, not party all the time. They're going out, and they kind of, like it's a good way that you said it. It's like, you are going to leave, but you're just waiting it out. A lot of people, they're like, oh, just get out right now. Just leave it with other than honorable. You'd rather leave with an honorable discharge. I see that.
Because it's shorter. The process is literally shorter.
Yeah.
If you else, they're going to keep you in processing for 12 million years.
That's how the government works.
Yeah.
And Jaden here has a question. Go ahead, Jaden.
I mean, I had a question, but y'all pretty much set a rundown about how the military is. Like, we just gotta go, bro. We're just waiting, bro. It's just a waiting game right now.
Did you have another question at all, Jaden?
Yeah. You mentioned as far as like your porn addiction, right? How do you feel about semen retention?
Yeah, dude, I was celibate too, for a while, and I think it's cool. Like, I don't know how to say it. Like, for me, I I think it's good. It serves you. I got, dude, I was so productive because I don't watch porn. I don't masturbate either. But I do, hook up with chicks, and
Hell
so
yeah.
like for me, it's that is a little bit different because I was realizing that I was lacking in certain skills that I wanted to obtain. And I think for me, this is my personal belief. Like, women are a freaking distraction. Like, if you're building and trying to get to where you want to be, like they're gonna be there. Trust me, I know because I kind of like taste lives. I'll travel and I'll be a whole different person. I won't be frugal. I'll spend money. Like I just traveled to an undisclosed location and we had yachts. We were in a pet house. We had beautiful girls. We had all these things, but it was really a distraction. I got nothing. Like, I didn't progress at all. But when I'm like not doing that stuff and I'm in my grind phase and I'm working hard, I won't hit girls up. I'll be in my bag. I'll be walking properties and doing deals and things like that. And I'll say I'll optimate I'll operate at my fullest potential where I'm when I'm not, busting nuts or whatever. So I think it's very, very powerful. Um, I'll just say, like, I wanted to make sure it wasn't because I I couldn't. You know what I'm saying? I just wanted to make sure that my skills were still there because I was the man. My senior year of high school, I was the man. And then when I went on my celibacy journey, I wasn't talking to girls at all. And then I started talking to girls a little bit more and closing and just practicing my game and it just leads to other things and I don't regret those experiences. It's just part of being like a 21 year old, but I would say it's still more powerful to not do that. And I'd say when especially when you start to get an abundance, it's even more powerful because it's self-discipline. Because when you start, like, telling you, man, certain places you go or where people start to recognize you as that guy, it becomes really easy and you have an abundance of options. And that's when it's most important because you'll start to lose focus if you let your energy go towards woman or, even masturbating porn. I think porn is disgusting because of how much it robbed me. But yeah, these are my stances on semen retention.
I think it robbed a lot of kids from just like an early age, right? We had cell phones, we had all that stuff, and it was just an easy access to a lot of people. And especially for us, like, born in 2000s, it was just an easy access and it kind of rots your brain in a way. Like
Yeah,
if you're watching as like I'm not gonna lie, like as an 8-year olds are watching that, if you like it or not. It's like an easy because people talk about it. An 8-year-old is playing with a 13-year-old online, and then a 13-year-old is gonna tell him, hey, have you seen this? And then they get trapped in there, like, oh, I can look this up. Ooh, like all this stuff online. And from 8 years old to 18 or even 21, they just known that for the rest of their life. And it's kind of like an attachment that they're trying to get rid of, but it's really hard to do that. But once you do get rid of that, you just have a sense of relief that you can do stuff now. It's almost like a prison. I don't know. It feels like I know when I stopped mine, like addiction or whatever, it actually did progress me even further than I thought. And this was like in 2006, around 2016, yeah. And I was like, okay, I got to stop playing video games. I got to stop jerking off. I got to stop eating like shit, count my calories. And this is like, I don't know, how old was I? I was like, I don't even know how old I was but it was in high school. And then I was waking up at 4 a.m. I was like in that Kobe mindset, that mama mentality mindset. And just reading books. I was in that same mode with you, Jabbar. And you find a sense of relief and you don't want to go back to that because you're like, I've changed. I don't want to be that disgusting fat piece of shit that I was back then. I'm a new person. I'm healthier. I'm doing all this stuff. And meditation helped a lot as well with that. And
yeah.
and any final thoughts on that, Jabbar?
Yeah, dude, go to the gym. Like, that's another thing. Like, I lift. I go to the gym. I'm in the gym. at least 5 times a week. My goal is always 6, but some days you got other stuff going on. But at least 5 times a week, I'm working out. I'm killing myself in the gym, trying to get this body right. And yeah, that's another thing, because I work out personally. Like, obviously health and all these other things are cool too, but I'm trying to have like this banging body for the like, that's really my goal. So I'm always at the bench. I do legs twice a week, and yeah, like, but the gym helps a lot. Like, it helps a lot, and I kind of have like a gym addiction instead of a porn addiction.
Yes. You feel like shit whenever you can't get a workout, and you're like, oh man, I wish I can go work out right now, but you don't have the time because you're with a bunch of contractors doing some stuff.
Yeah, and like, when I don't go to the gym, it's never because like I'm like, oh, I don't feel like going. It's never that. It's
Yeah.
literally fucking busy. I have to say, all right, I either need to, if I go to the gym, because I can't do quickies. I do like my workouts are hour 20 minutes. If I go to the gym, get changed, all these things, I'm gonna miss this meeting, or I'm not gonna have time to do all these things that are more important at the moment. So that's the only time I don't prioritize the gym. But any other time, I'm in there, baby. I'm in that motherfucker.
Nice. And now we can move on to the ending questions here, Jabbar. I would say, what would you ask your younger self? But you're pretty young. But is there anything that you want to tell your younger self? Let's say like 8 years old.
Oh, geez. Being rich is very important. Don't listen to people who tell you to be average. They're all crazy. Figure out how to start making money as quick as possible without selling drugs, and focus on skill hacking. Learning a skill generates you money.
Make sure you get a Bugatti.
Yeah.
And like, what question would you like to ask your future self? Let's say 20 years into the future.
Jesus. How'd you become a billionaire? What was the business? Was it real estate, or was it something else?
Yeah, like that. And what do you think the secret sauce is to being very successful?
Never giving up, relentlessness. A lot of people, I think that's really what it boils down to. Because like, if you do something for a long enough period of time, you will succeed at it at some point. A lot of people are just, especially with business, I actually disagree with that when it comes to certain things. Like, there's certain sports that, like, if you're not physically made for that sport, like, you can busting your ass and doing it for however many hours does not guarantee you the success. And even in business, it doesn't. You have to do the right type of work. But when it comes to business, I think it's really hard to fuck up for so long of a time. So if you put 20 years into this shit, you will probably be successful at some point. So like, just do it long enough. Don't give up. Don't have a 90-day mindset. I hate the thing that I know people hate gurus because gurus are smart and understanding that the people who are buying their courses to be rich in 90 days, that's just what they are. Like, they're buying that course because they think they're going to get rich in 90 days, and they're not willing to do the work. And the gurus understand that they can capitalize on that, because if they can convince these people who only want to be successful in 90 days that that's all it's going to take, then they're going to make a bunch of money. But what you realize as you like kind of start to gain success and traction is, if you have a long enough time horizon, you'll start to exceed those expectations. So like, if you say, hey, I want to be a millionaire, don't say you want to be a millionaire. Be willing. If you want to be a millionaire in a year, that's cool. Put the work in to get there. But be okay. Be like, I don't give a fuck if it takes me 50 years. I'm going to do it. I don't give that should be the way that you go about mastery. It shouldn't be, if it doesn't happen in 90 days, I'm out. I'm going to try something new. It should be, I'm going to do this until it fucking happens. And
I love that.
If you get there sooner, cool. If you get there later, okay. I'm okay with that. It doesn't matter what it takes. I'm going to do everything it takes to get there. Doesn't matter how long.
Yeah.
Who I have to this up to.
And
it will be.
Was it difficult for you to focus on one thing?
Hell yeah. Yeah.
Is there any advice on those, that whether like, I'm kind of pretentious in that as well, because I'm doing Turo, Airbnb, real estate, fix and flips, doing all that stuff, right? I'm like, shit, I'm not even focusing on one thing, but I'm like, I'm focusing on real estate, but is that truly one thing? What's your opinion on that?
I would say find things that have synergy, because like I'm not doing fix and flips for no reason. Like these, and I'm not doing Airbnbs for no reason. These are all towards the goal of creating enough income, because I'm getting out the military, right? Like these are all towards the goal of creating enough income to hit my financial goals. So that's the most important thing. Like to me, my goal to this year, my goal is to make $1 million, right? And I'm on track to do that as long as like my flips I don't have issues with appraisers or whatever, but I'll be very close. If I like, instead of making maybe 120 grand, maybe I'll make 90, which is, still some, I can make up for that. But like all these things that I'm doing are on the goal towards getting there, and all of them have synergy. Because when I'm flipping a house, I'm getting the like Airbnb, like I'm getting the capital I need to put systems in my Airbnb business. Then I can get the capital I need for my Airbnbs once they're stabilized to put the systems into flipping. So now both of those are just businesses that are generating income. So like I would say for me, it's just finding synergy in whatever you're doing. So like maybe if you're wholesaling, like for a wholesaler, if they do a fix and flip once in a while, are they distracted? No, because they're just not one track. They're versatile. If they see an opportunity where they're only going to make 30 grand from a wholesale, but if they flip this thing in 2 months, they'll make 100 grand. It makes sense from a mass perspective. So like you're just finding synergy in what you're doing. But when you're talking about doing real estate and you have an e-com business and you have a car rental business and then you do OnlyFans management, like those are totally different things, bruv. So if you don't have the people in place to manage those things to scale to where they need to go, like you're just doing a lot of things average and thinning yourself out.
Of course, yeah, I like that. Jaden, you got another question? Go ahead.
Yeah, so I know you mentioned like being in the military, right? I'm gonna like use military words. When it comes to your real estate, right? Your network, are you more like a small unit guy, meaning like you keep your circle small with a certain amount of people that you like to do business with, or you're willing to like go out and expand and like get as much people that you can, have a bigger team and expand?
Good question.
Oh no, dude. I am a big network guy. Like everyone needs to know what I'm doing. Everyone needs to know I'm a real estate investor. Everyone needs to know that I will help you like invest in real estate if you ask me and if I like you. Like I'm big on like I don't care if I didn't like you 2 months ago. If you start talking to me about real estate for long enough, I'll help you, because there's like a return on that eventually, right? Whether that's the gratification of helping someone build wealth for their family or the gratification of when that person comes to you and they're like, hey man, I have 100 grand and I want to invest in and deal with you. So like those are returns that you can kind of stack. And so I want to plant as many of those seeds as possible. Because like when you stay like small, you're limiting yourself to only the people around you. But when like that's why we post on social media. It's just about exposure. You're trying to expose yourself to as many people as possible because your income is directly correlated to the amount of people that you're helping. So if you can help more people or serve more people, you're going to make more money. So that's why I'm more of a spread myself to as many people as possible type of guy.
I like that.
Got it.
And I guess to further his question, I think he wants to know, like, you know how like a lot of people like surround yourself with the 5 people that you know, or in a way, do you do that
Yeah.
at all, Jabbar? Okay.
Yeah. So like I talk to Marcel Sunday like more than anyone else in the world right now, and that's because we're on the same page. We both want to make $1 million. We both want to make it now. We both want to be billionaires. We both want to do big shit. We both want to be on TV. We both want to, we both want to be gentlemen and surround and be able to attract the type of woman that gentlemen attract. And so we are like that's my person that I surround myself with the most, and I give most of my energy to him in terms of like that 5 people. And so if that was where you're going at, like yeah, I do have my people that, hey, if this person calls me, I'm probably not going to pick up right away. But if this person calls me, I'm going to pick up right away. Or I'm going to call him back ASAP, or I'll meet up and link with this guy over this person based on where they're at. Like the person that is just getting started on their journey, like I'll mentor them and I'll coach them if I can help them. But if I don't have time, and I'm probably only gonna shoot the shit with Marcel because it's gonna be, personal development related in some way, shape, or form at the end of it.
I like that. And what books? Okay, before the books, what quote do you live by, Jabbar? If you have a quote,
Um, Live by
live
those
by.
who those who sweat more in peace bleed less in war. That was from my gunny, my drill instructor. And that quote basically means is like if you bust your ass when times are good, when times are tough, you're going to be chilling, or not chilling, but you're not going to be as stressed as anybody else. And the way I look at it with my life is I'm willing to suffer, man. I'm willing to suffer myself to a point where I don't care about happiness. I care about productivity, conquest, and legacy. And so with those three things, like I'm willing to do anything that it takes to get there. I'm not like I drive a freaking Prius. I could go out and get a Tesla. I could go out and get a nicer car. I could go out and upgrade certain things with my life, and I could go out and prioritize going to an NBA game. I love NBA basketball and going to concerts and doing all these things, but they're not leading me towards the mission right now. And I don't have the time and bandwidth to do those things and simultaneously be productive in business the way that I need to be to hit my goals for the year. So I say that's it. Like you sweat more now so that you can have those good times. So now, like later on, like it might be next year, it might be once I get out the military, it might be the thing that's holding me back with my time from being able to go and watch an NBA game and not feel guilty about it, and go on a concert and travel to a foreign country and go on a yacht party with some cute girls. It's kind of like that type of mindset is what I live by.
Yes, you're trying to live that Wolf of Wall Street lifestyle.
Yeah.
And what books would you recommend for someone that's getting started in whether it's real estate, whether it's life, whether it's anything that helped you along the way?
The One Thing by Gary Keller, it talks about basically boiling your day down to one thing and focusing on that. And I think that's important for a lot of people who are young, whether that's in age or experience in business or real estate. Whereas, like, you need to figure out, like, when it comes to skill stacking, what is that one skill that's going to change everything so that everything else is useless or unnecessary, is meaningless or is less meaningful and unnecessary. So it's just that book just really reframes your mind. And if you're trying to get into real estate, then like read Bigger Pockets. Like whatever topic you're in, I would say read all of their books. They're very tactical. They'll teach you like the step by step and just gain those knowledge bits. Just keep because it's hard to say one real estate book because you need all of them. You need to understand rehab costs. You need to understand Airbnb. You need to understand long-term rental. You need to understand Burr. You need to understand all the strategies, wholesaling, so that you can be a well-rounded investor.
Nice. And I like that because it builds actually a bigger foundation. For someone, I kind of hate the questions like, hey, what is a real estate agent? I hate those questions. So I kind of recommend everybody just to read the books, do your own due diligence before getting into things. Like know what a subject to is, know what wholesaling is, know what a hotel is, know what all this stuff is by, reading, looking up online, being on the Bigger Pockets forums, all that stuff. I use Reddit as well. So like if I can't figure it out, I try to ask as many people as I can. But if it's like a simple thing, I ask it on Google. Easy thing.
If you don't know, Google it. Like,
yeah.
if someone says something on a podcast or in a book that you don't understand, Google that specific word. It doesn't matter if it takes you 10 years to read the book. Just Google it. Like, no one's saying don't ask questions, but like what is a real estate agent? What is a ROI? Like, these things are very Googleable, and it dilutes your credibility as a student when you're not willing to take the extra step and put in the additional effort to Google things you don't know. Obviously, there's some things that are basic that I don't know and you don't know and everyone doesn't know that you just freaking ask, But we've already proven that we've done our due diligence and knowledge and studies, and this is just something we just may have missed. It just never came across to us. So, but like Google things, man.
Yeah, well said. And second to last question here is like, is there anything that you would like to tell your father Jabbar?
Jesus. Wow. I hope you're proud of me, Dad. Uh, nah. Yeah, I would just say, like, for my dad, love you. I will retire you and give you what you dreamed of. It will be me. Because I like Ed Milet has a super motivational ass like speech he gives where it's like, you know, everyone in their family, everyone, your family may start off poor, maybe middle class, they're not doing so hot. And then the one shows up. And then he goes, how many people in this room are the one? Raise your hand if you're going to be the one in your family that's going to change your family tree forever. The one that's going to make a huge difference, who's going to have that legacy. And so for me, I'm like the one. Like I'm definitely the one. It's not like an egotistical thing. It's just facts. I'm going to be the person that my family will live. It might not. It might only be my next generation. My kid might fuck the money up, But I'm the one for now until someone fucks up, and then they'll have to be the one.
I like that. I like that. You're basically like the Star Wars where you're like the Darth Vader, or not the Darth Vader. You're like the Anakin, right? You're the chosen one. And if you do have a kid that fucks it up, that would be funny, but it shouldn't happen since you yourself are very knowledgeable and you could. I guess like the way to do this, like have you read the what is it called? It's like who's that? The Rockefellers, how the Rockefeller family does it.
Yeah.
It's basically like they get like a trust, and he builds it where like if you want to use his money and you're in his family, you have to get insurance so that once you pass away, all the money from your insurance and everything that you built will go back to the trust. And basically it just builds infinite money so that he already predicted that one kid's probably gonna fuck it up. So just to make sure that his great grandson fucks it up, his son could not fuck it up by putting all that money into the trust. So that can build long-term wealth with that. I would recommend that book.
Yeah.
And what value can people give back to you, and how can they reach out to you?
Yeah, I mean, follow me on Instagram, man. I'm trying to build that up. And if you have any deals, let me know. If you have any money that you're looking to get a return on, let me know. I'm the man for that. But really, if I just want to help people, that's really something that's very important to me that I really didn't get into. I pray for it every day. My goal this year is to give away $100,000 to my church. And then I also want to impact 1 billion lives. That's my goal. I pray for it every single day. It's more important to me than making $1 billion. So it's just giving back to as many people. And if I could be remembered as someone who was very giving, someone who was very charitable, I will be very happy with how my life played out.
I love that. I love that. And again, thank you for coming on, Jabbar. You were amazing.
Thank you so much, man. I'm sorry I couldn't have the video up for you guys.
No, you're good. You're good. Like whoever's going to see this right now, that is what Jabbar looks like. But reach out to his Instagram. He's a great guy and a young guy, and pretty much just reach out to him.